Hello friends, what's up? It's Jamie here. Welcome back to another Fangirl Fridays video. These are the videos where I make all my favorite things everyone else's problem. Happy Pride Month. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing some of my favorite books by queer and trans authors and just some of my favorite books that have queer and trans rep. I'll be highlighting 20 books, and then at the end of the video, I'm going to share a recommended reading list of other books with queer and or trans rep that I didn't have time to go into detail in today's video. So without further ado, let's get into it. Starting with Girl Serpent Thorn by Melissa Bashadouse. This fantasy novel follows Soraya, a princess who is poisonous to the touch, who must decide if she's going to step out of the shadows as the day of her twin brother's wedding approaches. Below in the dungeon, there is a demon that seems to hold the answers to her freedom, and above, there is a young man who sees who she is past the poison. But not everything is as it seems. Soraya thought that she understood her place in the world, but when her desire for freedom from her curse leads her down a path that she could have never imagined, Soraya must come to terms with who she is, or who she is becoming, human or demon, princess or monster. This book turned out to be such an unexpected gem. My cousin got it for me for Christmas like 2 years ago, and I read it last year, and I loved it. It's a Persian retelling of Sleeping Beauty that is so refreshing and captivating, and I say that as someone who has never cared much for Sleeping Beauty. I didn't even know that it was going to be queer when I first got the book, but it was a very welcome surprise. This book reminds me of the These Violent Delights duet by Chloe Gong, in the sense that I feel like Melissa Bashadouse did a really good job of putting a fresh spin on a pre-existing narrative that I personally was not a big fan of, and making it new and exciting. And it's sapphic. Like, this book is just so good. I really enjoyed Soraya as a character. I love a good walking the line between good and evil arc, and I feel like it was done really well in this book. I also loved Powerne. I hope I'm saying her name correctly. She and Soraya were so cute together, and she also has a really good arc in my opinion. If you're looking for a good fairy tale retelling, I can't recommend this book enough. Next, we have A Burst of Light by Audre Lorde. This essay collection is a call to action for social justice, as Audre Lorde discusses intersectionality, lesbian identity, African American identity, self-care, parenthood, injustice, and cancer. This book, when I tell you, it was absolutely phenomenal. I am not like exaggerating. I fucking love this book so much. I certainly do not have to tell you, and I am certainly by no means the first person to say that Audre Lorde is a magnificent writer. I mean, like, obviously, she is a legend for a reason, and this book just like proves that so much. Each essay in this book is so thought-provoking and heartfelt, packed with messages that are both inspiring but also feel like a punch to the gut in the best way imaginable. I literally cannot recommend this book to you enough. I am not doing this book or Audre Lorde's writing justice just by talking about it, so I need you to read this book like right now so that you can comprehend how amazing it is. Next, we have Where Sleeping Girls Lie by Farida Abike Imide. This coming-of-age mystery novel follows Sade Hussein, who after being homeschooled her whole life, is starting her third year of high school at the prestigious Alfred Nobel Academy after the death of her father. Misfortune has long been a staple of Sade's life, but even she doesn't anticipate her new roommate Elizabeth disappearing after her first night on campus, or for people to think that she's responsible. Sade teams up with Elizabeth's best friend Baz when it's clear that the police have very little interest in looking into what happened to Elizabeth. All the while, Sade attracts the attention of a group of girls known as the Unholy Trinity, particularly Persephone, who she is inexplicably drawn to. As Sade and Baz try to make sense of everything that has happened, Sade comes to learn that there is more to Alfred Nobel Academy and its students than she could have ever imagined, with secrets that rival her own. I absolutely loved Ace of Spades, which is also by Farida Abike Imide, so I knew that I had to read this book, and I loved it. I think that I do prefer Ace of Spades just a little bit, but I still thoroughly enjoyed this book. I will say though, while this book and Ace of Spades have similar dark academia mystery vibes, there are definitely key differences between these books. I don't want to give away the endings of either book, but I'll just say that Ace of Spades' ending was more satisfying, but this book's ending was more realistic, if that makes sense. Both endings were good for different reasons, and I feel like each ending suited their respective book. Overall, I do think I preferred the characters in, like the main characters in Where Sleeping Girls Lie versus Ace of Spades, but it's honestly very close. I just loved the little unit, the friend group of Sade, Baz, and Persephone. They were my holy, or I guess unholy in the context of this book, trinity, and Baz was my absolute favorite. He and Muffin, I loved Muffin. They had my whole heart. Baz was really the friend that Sade needed, and it just warmed my heart so much. I also just loved Sade and Persephone's relationship. It was a slower burn than I was expecting it to be, but I'm also glad that the majority of the book was focused on developing their friendship because it was really sweet. So then when we got that payoff in the end, it just made my heart all warm and fuzzy, and I just loved it so much. And they're both just such great characters. I very much recommend this book, but I also want to call attention to the trigger warnings because this book does get very heavy and dark very quickly. There's a full list of content warnings on Farida's website, but some of them include sexual assault, rape, suicide, and suicidal ideation. So I would use your best discretion when deciding whether or not you want to read this book. I personally recommend it, but again, take care of yourselves. Next, we have Brown Girls by Daphne Palasi Andreades. This coming-of-age novel is an exploration of female friendship and a depiction of women of color attempting to find their place in the world, following a group of friends and their immigrant families from Queens, told through a chorus of voices. I've never read a book like Brown Girls before, and I mean that in the best way possible. I've never seen someone take the concept of what I can only describe as like a Greek chorus. I'm not sure if that's exactly what this book is doing, but that was just what came to mind as I was reading it. But the way that Daphne Palasi Andreades like applies it to this novel is so moving and heartfelt that like it literally blew my mind. We don't follow an individual girl at any point in this novel. It's always this collective of girls. We get their individual names, but they always speak together. I don't even fully know like if I have the words to explain it, but it's such like the way like again this chorus of voices is such a crucial part of what makes this book so special and so excellent. And we follow these girls from childhood to adulthood to death as we watch them attempt to reconcile their immigrant backgrounds with American culture, and how as they age they grow apart just because of time or because some of them have chosen to remain in Queens or close by neighborhoods, while others have taken the plunge to start over in different corners of the world, all the while exploring the complexities and layers of female friendship and ambition and loyalty and freedom and commitment and race and sexuality and gender identity. Oh my god, like holy shit, this is such an absolutely incredible book. I could not stop thinking about it even after I finished reading it. It is just that good. Please go read this book. I literally cannot recommend it enough. It is just so amazing. I loved it so much. Like, go read this book. It's great. Next, we have This Poison Heart by Kaylin Bayron. This YA contemporary fantasy novel follows Breezius Green, a girl who can grow plants from tiny seeds with a single touch. When Bree's aunt dies and leaves her a dilapidated estate in Rhinebeck, New York, Bree and her parents decide to leave Brooklyn for the summer in the hopes that being surrounded by plants and flowers will help Bree finally learn to control her powers. But there is more to Bree's inheritance than she could have ever anticipated. Between an old-school apothecary, a garden filled with the deadliest plants in the world, and a sinister group that comes after her in search of a rare and dangerous immortality elixir, Bree must harness her gift to protect herself and her family. This book is like if Delicious Monsters by Lizelle Sambury had Greek mythology, and I really enjoyed it. I read Cinderella is Dead, which is also by Kaylin Bayron, and admittedly, I didn't really love it, but this book felt like such a huge improvement from Cinderella is Dead. I feel like the story and the characters have so much more depth and development, especially, oh my god, Bree's relationship with her moms really pulled on my heartstrings. The ending had me so Kaylin Bayron was really playing with my feelings. But it's fine. This book also scratched the Greek mythology itch in my brain. I was a huge Percy Jackson fan growing up, still pretty big Percy Jackson fan, honestly, if I'm being completely honest. And I've always been such a Greek mythology nerd. I'm currently obsessed with and loving Epic, the musical. So I've always just had a special place in my heart for Greek mythology, and this book absolutely delivers on that front. It's also delightfully sapphic between Bree's moms and Bree and Marie's potentially budding relationship romance. I'm very excited to see. Honestly, we got again, it was very much like the beginning of Bree and Marie's relationship. So I'm very excited to see how their relationship continues to develop in the next book, which I do plan to read sometime this year. So I can't say right now because it's a duology. It's This Poison Heart and then This Wicked Fate. So I don't know. Obviously, I don't know how it ends. I can't say like as a whole, like if I enjoyed the ending and like the duology as a whole. But right now, I will say that I really enjoyed this book. It was a good read and I recommend it. Next, we have Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake. This sapphic rom-com follows Delilah Green, a photographer based in New York who swore that she would never go back to Bright Falls, where all that's left for her are memories of her lonely childhood and her cold and distant stepfamily. But when her estranged stepsister Astrid pressures her into being her wedding photographer with a guilt trip and a five-figure check, Delilah suddenly finds herself back in her small town. Delilah fully plans to do her job, collect her check, and get the fuck out of Dodge. But when she sees Claire Sutherland, one of Astrid's stuck-up best friends for the first time in years, Delilah decides that maybe there is some fun for her to have in Bright Falls after all. And maybe even something more. Now, Claire Sutherland is a single mom with an unreliable ex who doesn't particularly love surprises, and Delilah is an unwelcome surprise. At first. But when they're forced together in a gauntlet of wedding festivities, which turns into a plot to save Astrid from her horrible fiancé, Claire isn't sure that she can resist Delilah's charms, or that she even wants to. I loved this book. I really loved this book. It is my favorite Ashley Herring Blake book of the ones that I've read so far. Like, it is not even close. It's silly and heartfelt and spicy. Delilah and Claire are such incredible characters with incredible chemistry. I also must say that I love the way that Claire was so supported by Astrid and Iris with her daughter, and how they were basically like second and third moms to Ruby. It was so sweet. I cried. I also cried because Delilah and Astrid taking those first steps to mend their relationship, their estranged relationship, had me so deeply, deeply emotional. I loved the way that their relationship was handled and how Delilah was accepted into the coven, even though this book makes it very clear that the healing has only just started and there's so much more healing to be done. But I love how the groundwork was laid for Delilah and Astrid to repair their relationship because I love them both so much. I'm just like, my girls. I'm like, I'm so proud of them and how far they've come. And I also love Delilah and Ruby's relationship. I love the scenes of them connecting over photography. It was so cute. I almost died. That just like little family unit of Delilah, Claire, and Ruby. Ruby and her two moms means literally everything to me. I love them so much. Oh my god. I literally cannot recommend this book enough. It is one of my favorite romances that I've read this year, like so far, just like hands down. It is so good. Please go read this book. Next, we have Astrid Parker Doesn't Fail, also by Ashley Herring Blake. This sapphic rom-com follows Astrid Parker, an interior designer who's hoping that a job as the lead designer for the Everwood Inn's renovation, which will be featured on a popular HGTV show, will be just the thing to distract her from her failed engagement a year prior and help her struggling business, as well as finally gain her the approval of her perpetually disapproving mother. That is, until Jordan Everwood comes into the picture, the granddaughter of her client who Astrid not only had an unfortunate first meeting with, but who also hates every modern design decision that Astrid makes. With the rest of her life in shambles, Jordan is determined to preserve the inn and her family's history. To Astrid's dismay, the showrunners ask them to play up this tension for the show. But somewhere along the line, Astrid and Jordan's mutual dislike for each other turns into something very different. And Astrid must decide whether she's going to continue chasing the life that she is expected to live or go after the one that she actually wants. Admittedly, I didn't love this book as much as I loved Delilah Green Doesn't Care, but I still really enjoyed this book. I still really loved it. I had already fallen in love with Astrid in Delilah's book, and I was quickly charmed by Jordan as well. Astrid and Jordan come into each other's lives when their lives have essentially imploded for different reasons, and the way that they were able to show up for each other and help each other unlearn the harmful ways that they viewed themselves brought tears to my eyes, but also made my heart all warm and fuzzy. This definitely wasn't like the best. It's a rivals to lovers setup, but it definitely wasn't the best rivals to lovers story that I've ever read, but I still enjoyed Astrid and Jordan's banter, and I also just loved Astrid's journey with coming to terms with her sexuality. It was all just very sweet Highly recommend it. I also just want to add that I was very proud of Astrid for finally standing up to her mother properly. I was so proud of her. I was like, yes, that's my girl. Next, we have Make the Season Bright, also by Ashley Herring Blake. This sapphic holiday romance follows Brighton and Charlotte, two exes who find themselves stuck in the same house for Christmas, 5 years after Brighton left Charlotte at the altar. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. I read this book because it was the December book pick for Saph Lit, the Sapphic book club that I'm in, but the premise had me very skeptical because even though I am a big fan of the second chance romance trope, I was like, I don't know how you're gonna make me root for this couple because a breakup is one thing. Getting left at the altar is a pretty fucking big deal. It's pretty hard to overlook. I was like, how are you gonna spin this? But honestly, I feel like Ashley Herring Blake pulled it off. I fell in love with both Charlotte and Brighton, and I feel like Ashley did a very good job of explaining why Brighton did what she did without fully excusing her actions. Because it was monumentally fucked up what Brighton did, but I also couldn't fully blame her or fully judge her for what she did as we learned more about these circumstances that led her to her decision. Like, again, don't get me wrong, it was still very fucked up what she did. Like, truly, like, like the worst. Like, there was no communication whatsoever in that relationship at that time. But again, like, when you read the book, at least to me, I feel like they really worked through that. And so I feel like Brighton and Charlotte's reconciliation and rekindling of their romance was really sweet, and it didn't feel too unrealistic for me because of how Ashley handled their issues. So if you're looking for a cozy sapphic romance for the holidays in 6 months, I recommend this book. I can definitely understand how some people wouldn't be able to look past like the whole like getting left at the altar thing, and maybe it's not like I can very much see how people could be very put off from this book. But so I'll leave it up to you. I personally like still really enjoyed it. I had a good time with this book, but I can understand why people wouldn't like it. Next, we have the Falling in Love montage by Ciara Smith. This YA rom-com follows 17-year-old cynic Saoirse Clarke, who has a hard no relationships rule. That is until she meets Ruby, who's staying with family for the summer, and Saoirse's rule flies out the window. Kind of. Because Ruby proposes a loophole, a summer of all the best rom-com cliches, a falling in love montage, so to speak, with a definite ending when Ruby has to leave in the fall. No broken hearts, no messy breakups. Which would be a perfect plan if Saoirse and Ruby weren't forgetting a crucial detail of the falling in love montage, that when it's over, the characters have fallen in love for real. This book was such a diamond in the rough for me. I've had this book for 2 years. It has been sitting on my bookshelf for 2 years. I had had a Barnes & Noble gift card and got a bunch of books like Last Night at the Telegraph Club and The Henna Wars and a bunch of other books. And then I also got this one because I liked the premise. I didn't know much about it, really. Like, I hadn't heard anybody talk about it, but I liked the premise. I'm like, oh, I still have some money left on this gift card. I'm gonna get it. And then I just kept putting off reading it, and I am genuinely so fucking mad at myself for doing that because I absolutely loved this book. Saoirse is such a great character. I loved her so much. She's got this sassy, dry humor with just enough self-awareness of her teenage petulance and cynicism that I couldn't help but love her. And Ruby was also so charming. I loved the two of them together. I will say though, I don't want to spoil the ending, but part of me wished the book ended differently, just a little bit, just a little bit. If you've read the book, like, I do understand that the ending very much aligns with the point of the story, but I still felt sad. Although I am hopeful that the ending is not super final, because it wasn't like a hard like I don't know how to describe it without like just giving away the ending, but I feel like it was open ended enough that like maybe some things can happen in the future. Who knows? You never know. They're still young. It's, again, I feel like I've spoiled the ending without even really talking about it. But like, I don't know. Like, I still enjoyed the ending, but it did hurt my feelings a little bit. Overall, this book was super cute, but it overall, like, it not even just the ending, like the book in general, tremendously hurt my feelings. To get a little bit more serious, Alzheimer's and dementia, they run in my family, so I have unfortunately been very privy to what it is like to grieve someone while they're still alive. I've had many family members who have had dementia and Alzheimer's. My grandfather, who actually passed 2 years ago, had dementia. And so I've seen these things up close and personal. So I just felt so much for Saoirse. My heart completely broke for her as she was processing her mom's early onset dementia. Like, oh my God, it devastated me. I cried a lot reading this book, way more than I expected to, but it was just like this book will have you giggling and kicking your feet one moment and then sobbing like a baby the next. It's great. I loved the whiplash. It was great. I really cannot recommend this book enough. Please go read it. I really want to read, I know Sierra Smith has another book. I can't remember what it's called, but I do want to read that one. I hope she has other books because I'm like, damn, I really, really love this book and I want to read more from her. So if she has other books, I'm definitely going to read them because this book was great. So go read this book. I loved it. Next, we have Gay Girl Prayers by Emily Austin. This poetry collection is a reclamation of Catholic prayers and Bible passages filled with sexual innuendos and heart-wrenchingly earnest declarations of love meant to uplift and empower the girls, gays, and theys. So I was raised Catholic but am no longer practicing, mainly because as I got older, I became really disillusioned with how the Catholic Church operates. And also I just feel like I got more agnostic as I've gotten older. But even as a former Catholic who has no interest in returning to Catholicism, I really enjoyed this book. I am a big fan of re-examining religious texts through queer and trans lenses, which this book does brilliantly. If you've watched enough of my book videos, then you know that Hijab Butch Blues by Lamia H is one of my favorite books of all time. I also love Church Girl is a Gay by Ginger Hendricks, which is not a re-examination of religious texts, but it heavily explores navigating sexuality and religion. To me, this poetry collection is really for the gays with the religious upbringings that might be struggling to reconcile their sexualities and gender identities with their religion, which I don't fully fall into that category, again, as a queer former Catholic with no interest in practicing again or practicing really any religion. But I can imagine that this book, I imagine it being really comforting for the gays who are still religious or unpacking their complicated feelings about religion. This book is also just really funny. Emily Austin effortlessly slips in plenty of jokes and innuendos that just had me giggling. This is a really solid poetry collection. I'm a big poetry fan, and this is definitely, honestly, like one of my favorites. Highly recommend it. Next, we have Outdrawn by Deanna Gray. This sapphic romance novel is a rivals to lovers story following Noah Blue and Sage Montgomery, rival artists who are assigned to work on the relaunch of a cult classic comic at their company. Although they're at different points in their careers, both Noah and Sage really need this job to go well, so they must put aside their differences and work together as a team. Or at least try to, while also resisting their attraction to each other. I absolutely loved this book. I almost finished the entire thing in one sitting, which doesn't happen as often as you might think it would for how many books I read each year. I quickly and completely fell in love with Noah and Sage. Their banter and chemistry and rivalry was just so excellent. I laughed, I cried, it was great. I'd also like to quickly call attention to the fact that the epilogue of Outdrawn is actually getting a short film adaptation. I've been closely following along with the process as Deanna Gray has been posting updates on her Instagram. I backed the project on Kickstarter because I was so excited, and they've already filmed by the time that you're seeing this video, and I believe they are currently in post, which is just so exciting. I don't know if there's a release date for this short film yet, but I am eagerly awaiting and hoping to see it sometime this year. Again, I don't know what the timeline is. I don't want them to rush, but I will be sat for when it comes out. I absolutely loved the epilogue. Oh my gosh, it was like such a perfect, and I mean, obviously it's like the epilogue, so it's not like the ending, it's the epilogue, but it was perfect. I loved it so much, and I'm so happy that it's getting adapted. If you haven't read this book and you are looking for a great sapphic rivals to lovers romance, I cannot recommend this book enough. Next, we have Take a Hint, Danny Brown by Talia Hibbert. This rom-com is a friends to lovers story following Danica, aka Danny Brown, a bisexual PhD student who has sworn off romance. That is, until she is convinced to fake date her security guard friend Zafir after a video of him rescuing her from a fire drill gone wrong in their office building goes viral. Now, Danny is only interested in using their viral moment to help Zephyr's sports charity for kids get the publicity that it needs and have a no strings attached relationship with Zephyr. The problem is, Zephyr is a certified hopeless romantic. He doesn't do no strings attached, and he is determined to challenge Danny's pessimism around dating. If you watched my Black Authored Book Recs video from this year, then you already know that Talia Hibbert is one of my absolute favorite romance authors right now. Like, she is seriously one of the best in the game, and you can fight me on that. Her romances are so, like, spicy and heartwarming while also being hilarious, and in my opinion, Take a Hint, Danny Brown is her absolute best work by far. To be fair, I haven't read every Talia Hibbert book yet, but out of the ones that I have read, this one is my absolute favorite. Danny and Zephyr are such phenomenal characters. They feel so distinct and yet they're so relatable at the same time. I love them so much. Their chemistry is perfect. Oh my god. I love this book so much. I literally cannot recommend this book enough. You need to read this book. Like, oh my gosh. And Zephyr, he is truly, oh my god. I usually, generally speaking, I mean, to be fair, a lot of the romances I read, most of them are sapphic, but I don't usually like have like book boyfriends. Zephyr, he is book boyfriend material. I love him. He superior man. Superior man. Oh my god. Wow. Love him so much. Next, we have One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. This sapphic romance novel follows August Landry, a 23-year-old cynical bisexual who moves to New York City to leave behind her past as a pseudo-detective. August doesn't particularly believe in love, that is, until she meets Jane Sue on the subway, a punk butch lesbian from the 1970s who's trapped in the present day. August must now revive her detective skills to help Jane get back to her original time period before it's too late, all the while working to save the restaurant that she works at from gentrification, reconciling with her past, and learning to open herself up to the love of her queer roommates and Jane. If you watched my trans-authored book recs video, then you also know that Casey McQuiston is my other favorite romance author right now. For me, there is really no one doing it like Talia Hibbert and Casey McQuiston. I even met Casey last year, lovely human, and we gushed over our mutual love of Talia Hibbert books. I have loved every Casey McQuiston book that I have read so far. August and Jane in particular are some of my favorite characters ever. They are literally everything to me. This book had me swooning and crying all at the same time. In addition to this incredible love story, this book is just as much about community and chosen family. I couldn't get enough of Mila, Nico, Wes, and Isaiah. The epilogue? The epilogue. Well, actually, is it the epilogue or the bonus chapter? Now I'm not sure if it's an epilogue or I guess it acts as an epilogue. It's an epilogue. Reduced me to a puddle of tears. I was an absolute wreck and I loved every moment of this book. Take a Hint, Danny Brown and this book are literally like neck and neck for the spot of my favorite romance novel right now. It is so beautiful, this book. Such a good, good read. Please go read it. It is so worth it. Oh my god, I love this book so much. It's so good. Next, we have The Pairing, also by Casey McQuiston. This rom-com follows Theo and Kit, two bisexual exes who bet on who can sleep with the most people when they find themselves on the same European food and wine tour to prove that they absolutely have no lingering feelings for each other. I love this book so much. I immediately wanted to go on a European food and wine tour while I was reading it, and I don't even like wine. I'm also fucking autistic. Trying new foods is very scary for me, but Casey really had me sold on the concept of a food and wine tour in Europe. The atmosphere of the book was just so excellent. This book was broken up by each stop on the tour and is paired with food and or wine recommendations, which was such a brilliant touch. I felt so immersed. I've never been to Europe, but I felt like I was there with Theo and Kit. Speaking of which, Theo and Kit are such incredible characters. And their chemistry was through the fucking roof. It was so good. And the POV switch halfway through the book had me absolutely gobsmacked. I was not expecting it, and it was perfect. This book is sexy. It's hilarious. It's a second chance romance, which I've already discussed. One of my favorite tropes of all time. I cannot recommend this book enough. I loved it. It's so good. Next, we have I Kissed Shara Wheeler, also by Casey McQuiston. This YA sapphic romance follows the perfectionist Chloe Green, a high school senior vying for the spot of valedictorian. Her only competition is prom queen Shara Wheeler, the principal's daughter who is adored by all. Well, everyone except for Chloe. Though their rivalry takes an unexpected turn when Shara kisses Chloe before disappearing. Wanting to beat Shara fair and square for valedictorian, Chloe must team up with Smith, Shara's longtime quarterback boyfriend, and Rory, Shara's bad boy next door neighbor with a crush on her, to decipher the clues that Shara left behind to find her before graduation. While this is technically my third favorite of the Casey McQuiston books that I've read so far, make no mistake, it is still fucking amazing. I loved it so much. Chloe Green, she is one of my favorite book protagonists just ever. She was so delightfully insufferable at times, but the arc, her journey that she goes on through this book, it was so great. Like, talk about some great character development. This book is also a love letter to the queer kids living in the Bible Belt states with a very conservative Christian upbringings. I don't want to spoil too much, but everyone in this book is gay. Like, literally everyone. And it is so fucking fantastic. It's so great. I love this book so much. You really can't go wrong with, like, any Casey McQuiston book. So, obviously, I recommend this book. Go read it. Like, what are you, like, go read it. It's great. I love it. Next, we have Refusing Compulsory Sexuality by Sharonda J. Brown. This nonfiction book is an analysis and critique of our sex-obsessed culture that diminishes and ignores asexuality and other aspec identities through a Black queer feminist lens. Sharonda J. Brown does an incredible job of breaking down and explaining how anti-Blackness, white supremacy, capitalism, patriarchy, and cis heteronormativity disproportionately harms asexuals, especially Black asexuals. Brown dissects the ways in which Black asexuals are disregarded because of the hypersexualization and fetishization of Black bodies, and how asexuals in general are often gatekept from queer spaces because we're not seen as queer enough, and that overall, asexuals are often viewed as lacking in happiness, maturity, and humanity. As a demisexual, this book was so incredibly healing and affirming of my own experiences, but it was also incredibly informative. I gained so much more of a better understanding about how acephobia affects everyone, not just asexuals, and the specific issues that Black asexuals face, which is why I literally, like, I need everyone to read this book. I know firsthand that there are so many people who don't even really know, like, what asexuality is, even other queer people, and so they don't know what issues asexuals face, especially when it comes to Black asexuals. And then they just think that asexuals don't experience any discrimination, which is simply not true. So if you or someone you know, like, you think they could use some more education about asexuality and acephobia, especially as it pertains to Black asexuals, please, please go pick up this book and read it right now. I really cannot recommend it enough. Next, we have You Don't Have a Shot by Raquel Marie. This YA sapphic romance novel follows Valentina, Vale Castillo Green, the captain of her high school soccer team, who, after starting a fight with her longtime rival, Leticia Ortiz, is stripped of her title and has now jeopardized her chances of playing soccer in college. Vale retreats to her childhood soccer camp for the summer to lick her wounds with the expectation that she'll be able to relax and redeem herself away from her father's intense expectations. That is, until she learns that she and Leticia will be co-captaining a team that could play in front of college scouts. Begrudgingly, with her future and her father's approval on the line, Vale swallows her pride and asks Leticia for help in improving their rookie team. But what starts as an alliance born out of necessity shifts into something more than just a mutual love of soccer. I loved this book, and I am so glad that I loved this book because I was really concerned at the beginning because Vale kind of really sucks at first. Like, she is not a good friend. The fight between her and Leticia in the beginning of the book was completely her fault. She shit talks her team at the summer camp, and her internal dialogue is not much better. And so I was really worried that I was going to have to, like, DNF because I really could not stand Vale at first. But I will be the first to say that her redemption arc is so worth it. Vale truly grows so much throughout the book, and it was really great to watch her unlearn all of that toxic, overly competitive, hypercritical, perfectionist bullshit that she had drilled into her by her dad. Because, spoiler alert, her dad fucking sucks. Like, he is the actual worst. The more that you learn about him, the more it is so clear that Vale has gone through so much, and it's like, it's no wonder that she is the way that she is at the start of the book, and it just makes her redemption all the more worth it, because she learns to recognize how unhealthy her relationship with soccer is, and she's able to forge friendships with people who she would not have connected with otherwise, and it was just so heartwarming. And like I Kiss Shara Wheeler, this book is just so fucking queer. All so many gays. It's so great. I love it so much. Highly recommend it. Next, we have Fierce Femmes and Notorious Liars by Kai Cheng Tom. This surrealist novel tells the story of an unnamed trans woman who is a kung fu expert and a compulsive liar. She leaves home at a young age to go live on the Street of Miracles with other trans women who become like a family to her. But after one of the femmes is killed, our protagonist joins a girl gang that begins to attack men on the street as retribution. This book is both a surrealist novel while also being a memoir. Kai Cheng Tom has explained that there are plot points and characters in this book that are inspired and kind of like pulled from her real life, but they're embellished and exaggerated by the novel's surrealist elements, which are so cool. I've never really read anything within like the surrealist genre, but now I'm like, maybe I will start reading more surrealist novels, because I feel like this book did it so well, and just overall, this book is so excellent. It is an incredible story of found family and sisterhood and healing from abuse, told by a self-aware, unreliable narrator who I loved so much. She's such one of like my favorite characters, like book characters. Like, she is so charming, and overall this novel is so charming but also incredibly moving and emotional. It's a short read, but I genuinely feel like this book is the perfect length for the story that is being told, and it is well worth the read. Highly, highly, highly recommend it. Next, we have We Have Always Been Here by Samra Habib. This memoir details Samra Habib's early life in Pakistan, their family's emigration to Canada as refugees, their arranged marriage to a male cousin, and is an exploration of Habib's Muslim faith, their queer and non-binary identities, their relationships with their family and chosen family, and how they've used photography to advocate for fellow queer Muslims. I love this book. I love this book so much. I know I keep saying like, oh, I love this book, I love this book, but I mean, obviously, I wouldn't be talking about these books if I didn't love them, and I do. Like, I love this book. Samra Habib is a phenomenal writer. So many of the stories that they tell throughout this book are so heartbreaking and devastating, but there's also plenty of stories about chosen family and their journey to find and make spaces with other queer Muslims that just tugged on my heartstrings in all the best ways. The way that Samra Habib writes with such fearless honesty and vulnerability is so reminiscent to me of Akweke Emezi and Lamia H, which, if you have watched enough of my book videos, you would know that they are two of like my favorite writers of all time. And so if you enjoyed like Dear Sundadan and Hijab Butch Blues, I think you're gonna really like this book. It is like very much up there in terms of like writing quality and storytelling like ability. Like, it's just so excellent. Please go read it. And last but certainly not least, we have The Stars and the Blackness Between Them by Janata Petrus. This YA novel, with elements of fantasy, tells the story of Audrey, who has recently moved to Minneapolis to live with her father after she is caught having a relationship with her pastor's granddaughter. Audrey befriends Mabel, and the two develop a romantic relationship, only for things to take a dark turn when Mabel is diagnosed with a terminal illness. This book is so bittersweet, and it hurt my feelings. The love story between Audrey and Mabel is so sweet and so special, but because you know that they're on borrowed time, just, it's so devastating to watch them fall in love when you know how things are probably gonna end for them, and it's not fair. Oh my god, it's so heartbreaking and devastating. I was completely wrecked when I finished this book, just a puddle of tears. It's so beautiful. I recommend this book so much. However, be warned, you will sob like a baby because of this book. Like, again, I fully recommend this book, but don't say I didn't warn you when you become an emotional wreck because of it. You're gonna need a lot of tissues. Just trust me on that one. Now, here are the rest of my queer and trans authored book recs or books with queer and or trans representation that I've talked about before on the channel but didn't have time to cover in today's video. I'm going to also particularly highlight some of my personal favorites. So we have Hijab Butch Blues by Lamia H, Zammy by Audrey Lorde, The Transgender Issue by Sean Fay, Ordinary Girls by Jakira Diaz, So You Want to Talk About Race by Ijoma Aluo, Queer Palestine and the Empire of Critique by Saad Atshan, Dear Senderim by Akwege Emezi, Church Girl is a Gay by Ginger Hendricks, Last Night at the Telegraph Club by Melinda Lowe, Homebodies by Tembe Denton Hurst, Ace of Spades by Farida Abike Imide, Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo, Freshwater by Akwege Emezi, Honey Girl by Morgan Rogers, and Devon and Chris Plan a Wedding by Chensia C. Higgins. Also, there's The Legendborn Cycle by Tracy Dion, The Blood Like Magic Duology by Lizelle Sambury, The Secret Shanghai series by Chloe Gong, and Iron Widow by Shirin J. Zhao. You can go back and pause to read all the titles, and before I end today's video, I just want to very quickly go through my immediate TBR of queer and trans authored books. First, we have The Unbroken, the first in a fantasy trilogy by C.L. Clarke. Then we have Iris Kelly Doesn't Date, the third book in the Bright Falls series by Ashley Herring Blake. Then we have I'm Afraid of Men, which is a memoir by Vivek Shreya. Then we have Pomegranate, which is a novel by Helen Elaine Lee. And last but certainly not least, we have Red, White, and Royal Blue, which is a romance novel by Casey McQuiston. Alright, that's all I have for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is my most massive book video I think that I've done so far, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what your favorite queer and trans authored books are down below in the comments. I would especially love it if you guys left some recs by A-Spec authors. I really want to read more A-Spec books, so I would very much appreciate the recommendations. Once again, that is all I have for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I upload Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, except when I don't, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.